The Timekeeper. My name is Daniel Vallis from InformedChristians.com, a website ministry devoted to discerning current events from a Christian and biblical perspective. Thank you so much for your prayers. It is greatly appreciated. I definitely need strength and wisdom. Please pray for my health. There is much resistance at this time. And I thank you for your prayers and your support and your sending in news and tips and articles. I greatly appreciate it. And together we can provoke each other to love and to good works and to be ready for the Lord's return. This video is a warning, but it is not a prediction. I do not know the future, but I do know things are not getting better, and we have heard so many prophetic warnings, celestial warnings, and even direct warnings from the enemy serving legal notice that this time is very important and things are not getting better and sudden destruction is coming. And also, so is our Lord and our Redeemer, Jesus Christ. Therefore, we must be ready. Now, we've been observing a lot of things coming together over the past few weeks and months, different celestial signs, prophetic signs, and we've been looking a lot at the biblical shadows and patterns that are happening at this time. And we've been looking at it from a biblical calendar, going by the sightings of the first moon and ignoring the rabbinical precepts. And when we've looked at that, we've seen how amazingly it's lined up with the celestial signs at this time. But we've also noticed how the enemy messaging that they've been doing has been matching up with the biblical calendar as well, because they know what time it is. And we've talked about the Bible emphasis of knowing the time. Knowing the proper time is very important to interpreting scripture and prophecy. If you do not know the time, you will not wake up. And if you do not wake up, then you are in a dreamland, in a dream world, and you are not in reality. And you will not live for eternal things. You will live for things in a fantasy world. And one day you will have to be woken up. And Christ implores us to wake up beforehand, to recognize the signs, and to live for things of eternity, not for things of a fantasy world that will not matter at all. So this is why we seek to have an understanding of the times so that we know what we should be doing now and also for the future. And we've seen the enemy especially ramping up because they know what time it is. Time is running out in the shadow pattern that we've been looking at of Christ's first coming, his first time here fulfilling prophecy from his triumphal entry, which fulfilled prophecy to the day, and also up to ascension. And that is the day and other shadow pattern that we were pointed at, the disciples were pointed at, and even the disciples themselves pointed out as well. And so that is the day we see approaching. We do not know the day or hour, but that is the shadow and final pattern that we see approaching. So we expect sometime between now and then further fulfillment of prophecy. And today is May 1st, Beltane, which is a very important day to the occult, and they've known this time was very special for a long time, and they've been working toward this. This day, Beltane, is pretty much right after the birthday of the Illuminati, which was organized on this day in 1776. But it is also the Luciferian New Year's Day. That's why this day is so important. This is the occult, witchcraft, whatever you want to call it, New Year's Day, especially in the Luciferian doctrines. This is the day when their sun god, Apollo, that we've been talking about and pointing out, rises to prominence in their teachings, and their supposed male force increases, which is a direct reference to Baal as well. This time is very important because they know things are about to change. They know they've been working for this time for a long time with many commemorations and occult activity and spiritual activity as well. May 1st is very significant in the occult, and this is also when many major projects are launched by the occult and those of Luciferian doctrine. This day was the birthday of communism, May Day. So this day is very important to them. This is their New Year's Day. They've been working toward this, and not only have they been drawing their disciples' attentions to it, but they've been basically telling them and warning them that sudden destruction is coming, which is the same warning we saw from Scripture. So again, we have seen and looked at the biblical patterns first, but then we see the enemy closely following it and giving warnings very similar to it because they are familiar with Scripture. They read it with a completely twisted and distorted perspective though, but they know what time it is. They are working on the mystery of iniquity, and we have been watching and examining the mystery of Christ, the work of redemption. And we are looking for his second coming, the day of redemption, when he picks up the purchased possession in the footprint of his first coming. And we've been talking especially about how in this last part of his first coming, there are a lot of shadows and patterns from the Bible that coincided at this time with Joshua and the sun and moon, Jacob's ladder, Christ's ascension to heaven as well. And we've been looking at the time between these two bookmarks, the triumphal entry and ascension, and seeing all the prophetic signs and patterns and shadows in there that Satan has also been mimicking as well. And we also find ourselves in the barley harvest. And there is the definite gap between the barley harvest and the wheat harvest. And we talked about this before, and how Pentecost is first fruits of wheat. And we are expecting the barley harvest right now. We're also near a very important time with the celestial sign of Jupiter in Judah the Lion, Leo the Lion. It is just a few days and hours away from approaching Station 2, and that is when Jupiter in its circuit appears to stop and pause for about a week. It did that back at the start of 2006 in January when it switched from prograde motion to retrograde motion, and now it's getting ready to switch from the retrograde back to prograde. And this Station 2 will essentially mark when Jupiter is departing. It's going to be on its way out. So this is a very significant turning point, literally, on the celestial clock, where time visually appears to stop with this celestial sign and then starts departing. So we find very significant signs in the celestial clock, and also down with the prophetic shadows and patterns that we've been looking at, with the gap between Ascension and Pentecost, and the celestial clock pausing and stopping right between the two, and then starting to depart. And we are expecting a shift of focus from the Gentiles back to the Jewish people. We are expecting that, based on the current way prophetic events and the shadow patterns have been going, that we expect things to switch very shortly. So again, if you have not yet, go outside when you can at night and look up at Jupiter in Leo the Lion, Judah the Lion, and be reminded that time is very short. The celestial signs that God has been calling our attention to, it is about to stop. It is about to depart. This is the warning that Scripture gives us. And we have only a few days left in this shadow pattern, and we've seen everything else being lined up exactly. So we have no reason to doubt that time is very short. The enemy is very busy knowing that the revealing of the Antichrist is about to happen. And he's been prepping his disciples for that. And we've talked about how they've been launching so many messages about gateways and their prince and their royalty coming onto the scene, especially the themes of purple lately. But we've seen so much tied to Trafalgar, and they were using that as a rallying point of so many messages tying together, weaving a tapestry of warning to Satan's disciples, but also serving legal notice to Christians who are paying attention, that the snatching away of the ready bride is going to be in connection with the events at Trafalgar. And we must keep the events at Trafalgar still on our mind. That was not just a one-time event. That was the kickoff party. That was the kickoff event, the kickoff rallying point of things and activities that we've seen since then. Major warnings have only increased since then. That was just the beginning of their warning. The purple rain, remember, is celebrating. They're celebrating that the beast is about to be revealed, that there is about to be a harvest. They are celebrating that. And they know that the ready bride, just like Rahab, who is where she was supposed to be, ready to leave, constantly looking at the reminders, she who is making herself ready, she will be snatched away as the ready bride. And this is why Jesus told his disciples, be ye ready. He gave so many parables and illustrations of what happens to those who aren't ready and who aren't watching, who aren't shining bright. I was thinking today of Rahab, when she first saw the army of Israel come up to the walls of Jericho. She was in her house then. As soon as she started seeing them march toward the city, she gathered up all her relatives and everything that they told her to get ready about. She got in her house, she locked the doors, and she stayed in her house for 7 days. She was ready where she was supposed to be. She did not know the day or hour. She did not know exactly what the Israelites were doing, but she knew that they had warned her, be in your house, do not go out of your house, be ready when we come against the city. Because if you go outside, you will be treated like them. And that's very closely to the same warnings that Christ gave his disciples. Now, being wise and being ready. Don't be a hypocrite. Read the letters to the 7 churches of Revelation. Most of the church is not going in the rapture. The rapture is a reward for those who are ready. And if you aren't getting yourself ready now, don't expect to leave. If you're living in a dream world now, don't expect to leave. Christ told his disciples twice explicitly, be ye ready. Remember Lot's wife. We see so many warnings now, not only from Scripture, but the enemy. We have no excuse not to live for eternity right now. There's nothing down here worth living for. Just yesterday, the Trevi Fountain in Rome runs red with the blood of persecuted Christians. And this was organized by the Catholic Church, which has a long history of shedding the blood of true Christians. But they lit up this whole famous fountain red to symbolize the blood of persecuted Christians during this occult time that is steeped with human sacrifice. And now they're blatantly putting it out, a sign reminding the world that the blood of persecuted Christians is flowing and is about to flow even more. And we've seen other symbols that they've been lighting up, the arch, the Empire State Building, drawing attention to the blood of persecuted Christians is about to flow. This is a very famous fountain in Rome, personified by the ocean there in the middle, which is basically a reference to Neptune right in front of the triumphal arch as well. That's what it is. So they're lighting up another triumphal arch in red, showing you that there's about to be a major amount of bloodshed, primarily of Christians. And the Bible tells us that. The fifth seal of Revelation is persecution. There are going to be a lot of Christians who are left behind who are going to be persecuted. Sudden destruction is going to start as soon as the Antichrist, the son of perdition, is revealed. And we've heard the calls for peace and safety. We know from Scripture alone that sudden destruction is coming. And now the enemy is blatantly putting up in major landmarks around the world that the blood of Christians is about to flow. Are you awake? And we've looked at the connection with Alice with all of this and the double mentioning through a lot of their messaging and tapestry that they've been weaving, tying back to Alice as a major structure of their theming that they've been doing, but also in connection with the CERN technology of going through the gateways and the doorways. And they even used the same coloration in the Alice movie trailers with the red and blue connected to the doorways and time. The white knight coming onto the scene, the black horse coming onto the scene, the red horse coming onto the scene from the depths of the earth, out of the heart of the earth, and in connection to persecution of Christians, shedding the blood of Christians. They have this blatantly in the Alice trailers. They're showing you the entire story of what is about to happen. And I've been giving out so many warnings that we are almost out of time. With the Hennessy ad, we talked about that. What is your wild rabbit? Connecting again directly to Alice and time stopping. Even in the original Alice story, time being stopped at the tea party. This is no time for tea. This is no time for dreaming. This is no time to live in a fantasy world. It's time to wake up. The enemy is blatantly telling you blood is about to be shed. Time is about to be altered. It is time. And we've talked about how water is used so much as a picture of time, and especially in the Alice trailers and in connection with London with the Big Ben, how their clock is almost a direct ripoff of Big Ben, but they're showing that time is going to be altered. And we've also talked about how the River Thames, which runs right by the Greenwich Observatory, Greenwich Mean Time and Big Ben, and even the upper part of Thames is known as Isis up near Oxford. That whole river pictures time. And they're pulling on all these in connection with Trafalgar. They're pulling them all together right now, and even blatantly in the news telling you, oh, we're going to be stopping time. We have to stop time just a few days ago. They know what time it is. It's time to wake up. And they're telling their disciples to wake up. Why aren't Christians waking up? Just 2 days ago, they put out the announcement, oh, a weasel knocks out CERN's powerful particle accelerator. They're drawing attention to CERN. But they're using this story about a weasel. And this was making a lot of news, but they were drawing attention to the connection of weasel and the CERN particle accelerator, which we have definitely seen the connections with Alice and time. And I highly doubt that they're shut down. They're using this as a story. But several people pointed out that this strongly hints at what is known as a clock reel. And that's where the little nursery rhyme, Pop Goes the Weasel, comes from. And comes from what's called a clock reel, also known as a yarn winder, which had a type of a clock where you would wind it up, and after 40 revolutions, it would click and make a pop noise, and that would tell you you had reached a certain length. And that's where the poem comes from, the Pop Goes the Weasel. So in relation to Alice, which is shaped very similar to a clock reel or a yarn winder, the fact that they're announcing now all of a sudden, oh, Pop went the weasel got fried, pop, electrical pop, they're telling you that time is up. They've reached a point at the end of the cycles. Pop goes the weasel. It's time. And that finds us right at May 1st, which we just mentioned as the Luciferian New Year's Day. They've been warning their disciples, it's time. The pinnacle of the mystery of iniquity is coming to pass. The 1776, the 570-76. It's right here. They know they are at the time. If you haven't yet, watch our videos, Time, CERN, and the Bible, as well as Time and Back to the Future, Time in Tomorrowland, those articles. But we have videos and articles talking about time from a biblical perspective and how Satan is going to be allowed to manipulate time. And we've talked a lot about the blue and the red and the purple and the mystery of iniquity, the purple rain. And this is what they're celebrating all of a sudden with the big push for purple rain. And it's still ongoing. You can find it in the news still. They're still bringing it to people's attention, keeping it on the front burner. It is time for the purple rain. They're celebrating that. The other day we happened to talk about the avatar illustration of the blue being, which is just a picture. They're not going to literally be blue, but the picture of blue replacing the red. And it's very interesting that just a few hours after I posted that video, a news article came out about the Blue Man Group, which is a famous rock group, how they mentioned, some of our costumes got stolen and be on the lookout for blue men. It's so blatant. And again, they're not referencing literal blue men. They're using it as a picture type. They know it is time for purple, the purple rain, and they're putting out blatant messages. Someone sent me this the other day that back on April 7th, Facebook announced a new feature where messenger codes would be around profile pictures. They'd have a picture there in the middle and have a profile code around the outside that could be scanned, and you can use that to easily start conversations. But when they launched and announced this new feature, Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook, he used as an example his dog, which he calls the Beast. And he said, below is the Beast code. Give it a try and let me know what you think. They're promoting the Beast, and that's what we've been talking about. With the red and blue and the purple. The 8th king is going to be a beast version of the 7th king. He's going to have the identity of the 7th king. He's not going to be the 7th king, but he's going to be beast version of the 7th king. And they're telling you blatantly, the beast is about to come onto the scene. The Antichrist is about to be revealed. And the timing of this is very important because they released this promotion of the beast code, the beast number, which the Bible references as well. They released this on the exact same day that Google put out the gateway with 18, which is 666, and also 96, the merging of the red and blue, the beast and the gateways and the two pillars and all that we talked about before. They released this on the exact same day because they are letting Satan's disciples know the beast is about to be revealed. The Antichrist is about to be revealed. And just a few days ago, they put out the blatant message, "Oh, Lucifer in the flesh." And people were thinking that this was just some childish, sophomoric political thing. But no, it was a blatant message in connection with all the other messaging they've been giving that Lucifer in the flesh, in his avatar, who is a beast, who is the 8th king, Lucifer in the flesh is about to be revealed. The Prometheus, the Apollo that we've been pointing out to you. So if you've been watching our videos, if you've seen that news, it should have caught your attention. They are blatantly telling you Lucifer in the flesh is about to be revealed. Politics is a complete scam. Don't even waste your time listening to any of these debates or anything. It's a distraction. They're using it as messaging that this is the last Trump. If you aren't listening to the final warnings, you are completely asleep. And they're also blatantly telling you that Lucifer in the flesh, the beast, is about to come through the gateway. The Antichrist, the 8th king, is going to be a fleshly form. He's going to be an avatar, but he's going to be a beast. Not entirely human, but he's going to be the avatar for Lucifer. There will be 10 kings under him, very prominent kings, many of whom have been groomed for their position and will be respected by their different nationalities and different groups, regional groups there. But the Antichrist is going to be the 11th horn. There's going to be 10 kings under him who give their power to him. So the 10 kings are already here now. They might not necessarily have full power, but they're going to receive power from the beast. But they're going to be instrumental in preparing the way and also handing over power to the Antichrist. The Bible also tells us that 3 of these are going to be uprooted and destroyed. And it highly looks like America is going to be one of those groups. And they're blatantly telling the world right now, the beast is about to come onto the scene through the gateways, Lucifer in the flesh. Satan is telling his disciples, be ye ready. As a Christian, are you awake to what is going on in the world right now and how little time you have left to do something for eternity? To live for eternity? Satan is drawing his disciples' attention to time, and that time is almost up, particularly using the rabbit. And if you're familiar with the Alice in Wonderland story, the rabbit is the timekeeper. He's the one who draws Alice down through the rabbit hole, down through the gateway, but he's also keeping track of the time. And he keeps saying he's late for a very important date. The rabbit is the timekeeper. And so this is going to be used a lot as symbolism of the timekeeper and also as the escort through the doorway, the time-dimensional gateway. And we see this same concept in the Alice Through the Looking Glass poster that they've been pushing a lot of, which has been the major carrier for a lot of the messaging. Now notice where the white rabbit is. He's upside down. Time is about to be turned upside down. But notice who he's standing between. He's standing between the two twins, the two pillars, the gateway. The rabbit is the timekeeper, and he's the escort through the gateway. And even in the trailers that they've been putting out, they've been even blatantly pushing this home. The White Rabbit. The song that Pink sang for the trailer was White Rabbit. And Satan is drawing his disciples' attention to the rabbit, the timekeeper. And there's multiple timekeepers that they're using in messaging, but Satan is using that as the rallying point of pay attention to the rabbit, the timekeeper, because we are out of time. And just the other day, Pink released Just Like Fire from Alice Through the Looking Glass. Again, tying the connection between Phoenix, the White Rabbit, Alice Through the Looking Glass. All of these are connected, and they've been using it to indoctrinate their disciples and let them know the White Rabbit, the timekeeper, is about to open the gateway. It is time. And then the Phoenix, the Apollo figure, is about to come through. And when you look at the poster for Alice Through the Looking Glass and you look at the mirror, you can tell that they portray it as a bubble, a pool of mercury, which is a reference to the mythological escort. Basically, the white rabbit is a form of Hermes, a form of Mercury. The figure, that's how they're using it as a reference. But they're showing so much in just this one poster, in this one trailer, and this is the major carrier for all their messaging right now. And someone sent this to me the other day of them using rabbits again as a timekeeper. This art installation called Intrude, They're Coming. That's the title of it, Intrude, They're Coming. And they set this up at Brookfield Place, which is very close to the One World Trade Center. But they set up several inflatable gigantic white rabbits right in Brookfield, right in the middle of a bunch of palms, which connects to the Phoenix and the Gate and Palmyra and everything else we've been seeing, which this was set up at the exact same time. They're setting up multiple timekeeper warnings around the world in very noticeable places, Trafalgar Square, and then right here at One World Trade Center. They're putting out the blatant warnings of the timekeeper. And visually, Brookfield Place is a visual arch, another triumphal arch with palms right in the middle of it. It is another Palmyra arch where they've set up another timekeeper, warning Satan's disciples. It is time for the gateway to be opened. And it's situated visually right in front of the One World Trade Center. One World, the New World Order, that's what they're getting ready for. The placement here is not accidental, and it was here for multiple days. And also at the same time, I noticed that they're putting up some banners for a very upcoming racing event called the America's Cup, where they visually show the mixing of the red and blue at this exact same time. You could even see in the background there major signs for the Intrude, They're Coming. They're telling you blatantly, they're coming. It's time. At two triumphal arches in the world. The One World Order is about to come, which means the destruction of the old order is about to start as well. And Brookfield Place is right across the road from the One World Trade Center, but visually lined up, it looks like the gateway to it. And this is where they set the rabbit installation up at, white rabbits, for multiple days. And the installation ended yesterday, bringing people's attention over multiple days up to May 1st, New Year's Day. Satan does not know the day or hour, but he knows that pretty much here is as close as it's going to get, especially in light that Ascension is May 4th, 5th, and we will see the day approaching, which intimates that Christ will be returning shortly before that. But they are putting up the blatant warnings that Lucifer in the flesh is about to make his triumphal entry to start his one world order. And we had talked about Horatio Nelson before in Trafalgar column and all the importance of that to Mars the Avenger, the God of War. They know sudden destruction is about to come. That's why they're drawing attention to it and saying it's time. But someone has pointed out that Horatio Nelson, he was significantly wounded several times in combat, losing the sight of his right eye during the campaign in Corsica in 1793 and later the amputation of his right arm. So we had talked about his arm was completely gone and withered up. But he is also literally blind in his right eye too as well. He's the perfect pattern and shadow of the Antichrist. If you're going to use any reference to reference the Antichrist, he's the perfect example. That's why they're drawing attention to him and having a triumphal arch placed right next to his column, because the Antichrist, Lucifer in the flesh, is about to come through the gateway and make his triumphal entry. But then someone else also pointed out that Horatio's name is Timekeeper. Horatio is an Italian baby name. In Italian, the meaning of the name Horatio is Timekeeper. You can't make this stuff up. He's the perfect Antichrist pattern and reference. Horatio Nelson, just a person by himself. His name means Timekeeper. His motto was the palm and the phoenix. It's in his Latin motto and even on his heraldry. He's blind in his right eye. He's missing his right arm. And he's standing on top of a column that's modeled after the Temple of Mars the Avenger. He is the Antichrist pattern and reference. Nelson is another timekeeper. He's another white rabbit. And they brought attention to him at the exact same time as the Joshua timekeeper pattern with the sun and moon biblical shadow pattern that we have seen at this time as well. All of this is not accidental. Satan knows what time it is. Do you? They're using Nelson as the white rabbit in connection with the gateways and the doorways and going down the rabbit hole, time being late for a very important date, and also a reference to Mercury, Hermes, and the gateways there referenced as well, and in connection with other promotional material that they've been driving home, that the gateways that they've long been referencing are about to open, and that they are late for a very important date. And they've been driving this home with news of blatantly telling you, the rabbit hole, hint hint, Alice in Wonderland, hint hint, we're stopping time, Big Ben, hint hint. How many more signs do we need? How many more signs do you need? That's the question. Are you waking up? Or are you refusing to wake up? We had talked about Avengers before and all the blatant messaging and that and the tie-in as well. This is what Satan's about to do. He's about to avenge his race, which was already wiped out during Noah's flood, and they're getting ready to do it again once Lucifer in the flesh is revealed in his triumphal entry. And I did some more research and found out that there was another film called The Avengers, which took place, guess where? Right in London with Big Ben. And if you look at the cover, you'll see some very definite color references of the red and blue and the conflict between the two. Now, the original Avengers was a complete flop, and I think they did that deliberately because a lot of people were commenting this does not make any sense at all. There's no continuity. But once we look back on it, we can see why it was a flop. It wasn't meant to be a story. It wasn't meant to be entertainment. It was meant to be a message and a pattern and shadow that would be referenced later on. So keep in mind, this one Avengers was laid down in the past. So that means Satan's disciples are going to be looking for the patterns laid down in this one in future events, which we are now at. So let's look at the original Avengers. They have Big Ben being struck by lightning, blowing up also with explosive placed there as well. A lot of emphasis on spheres and gondolas traveling in them. Direct references with these spheres, very reminiscent of Ezekiel's wheel in connection with water right at Big Ben as well. Traveling down the river Thames in two inflatable balls, very also reminiscent of Ezekiel's wheel with the seam patterns on that. Traveling down time, then more traveling down the river Thames, traveling in a hot air balloon in a special pressurized gondola. Does that sound familiar? And then the main villain wears purple and he carries around a scepter in connection with water and Big Ben. All of these patterns they laid down years ago. Do any of these patterns sound familiar with what we've seen in just the past few days? We're seeing this exact same pattern played out now because it's tied to the current Avengers. Mars, the Avenger. Lucifer in the flesh. This is what they've been prepping the world for and telling Satan's disciples, look for these signs, and we've seen all of these signs. The main evil villain carries a scepter, very similar to Prince's scepter, and also has lightning bolts on it, Zeus, other mythological references there too as well. Very blatant. So when in the news we see a figure referenced about a scepter, and then all the other references with Alice in the Looking Glass, it instantly brings to mind in Satan's disciples all the patterns laid down with the original Avengers, letting them know it's about time for the real Avenger. When we compare the two, just Avengers just with the Big Ben being struck by lightning and in conjunction with an explosive being blown up, being stopped, Ezekiel's wheel in connection with water and time traveling down water, traveling down the river Thames, and then we compare it with just what we've seen just with the Alice Through the Looking Glass trailer. The almost exactly the same Ezekiel's wheel, Big Ben almost to a T with lightning being altered, time being altered, traveling over water in the spheres, water as time, traveling through time. It's almost a carbon copy because they are related, they are connected. And then when we throw in the fact that there was a pressurized gondola rising up in a hot air balloon that they traveled into as well with small portal windows, that instantly reminds us of the Hennessy ad, which they just recently put out too as well, in connection with water and punching through time in a dimensional gateway, and we talked about that as well. There's a reason why we see all these ads right now, because they know it's no time for tea time, and they know that time is about to be significantly altered in connection with the White Rabbit, the triumphal entry, the revealing of the Antichrist, the revealing of the beast. And that's why they're putting out all this messaging to make sure you get it. The White Rabbit, the Timekeeper. It's time. There's about to be an entry. There's about to be going down the rabbit hole. And all this within the past 15 days. Do you realize what time it is? Do you live knowing what time it is? We've pointed out so many messages that even Satan is telling his disciples, it is time. Time is so short. Messaging about ascending into the heavens, going up Jacob's ladder, but also that mayhem and pandemonium is coming. They know sudden destruction is coming. And we're seeing this ramp up even more blatantly. Just yesterday, they put out a childish thing by the Prince and the Queen of Boom. Queen drops the mic on the Obamas. Very childish, very sophomore. But they're putting out Boom, right in connection with Pop Goes the Weasel. They're blatantly telling you, boom, destruction's about to come. And if you do a news search on Drop the Mic, you'll see it suddenly becomes super prevalent. They're really pushing it just within the past few days of boom. And just like a mic drop, when it drops, it makes a very large noise that wakes everybody up. That's what they're pushing out right now. Boom! Wake up! And they're using high-profile people to put it out, the Queen and the Prince, to make sure you get the message. You know, this isn't just anybody putting it out. These are people who normally would not put out such childish stuff. But they released this little trailer in connection with the Invictus Games, and that directly relates to Apollo the Sun God. And then just last night, Obama, he also put out another Drop the Mic at his last major correspondence dinner, got a lot of news attention. You'll find it all over the news. They're really driving it home right now from both sides of the Atlantic. Boom! Sudden destruction is coming. So many references, so many tie-ins. Going back to the Queen's message that she put out, you could see right in the background 2 golden horses, and that directly goes with the other references to the golden boy on the rocking horse and Apollo and Prometheus. They know the beast, the 8th king, is about to come through the gateway, riding his horse. The Sol Invictus, the sun god, Apollo, who they're directly referencing and invoking with their Invictus Games. The antithesis of Christ. The Antichrist, the I Am, the one who's taking that title. They're telling you blatantly in this trailer that boom, he's about to come. And it's starting in just a few days. That's what all their messaging has been pointing to. In just a few days. And they've been counting down for a while. And it's sponsored by Jaguar. Hello, that should catch some ideas too. But they're blatantly, blasphemingly using the reference of I Am. And it's directly to the sun god Apollo. And they've been telling their disciples for the past few days and weeks, he's coming. Let the countdown begin. And now we find ourselves at the finish line. And they're telling their disciples, boom, Pop Goes the Weasel is about to be here. Timekeeper, the White Rabbit, the Triumphal Arch, Triumphal Entry, the Gateways, the Beast. Time is about to be stopped. Because Sol Invictus, Apollo, the sun god Prometheus, he's about to make his entrance. And this is what they've been preparing for and warning Satan's disciples about. Are you paying attention? Now it starts May 8th through May 12th. So not even 3 days after the Ascension Day. Right in this window between the 2 major events, which we've been looking at, Ascension and Pentecost, right in the middle of Station 2, right when time, the celestial clock, appears to stop. That's when they've been pointing to with their disciples with these Invictus Games. And a lot of people were mentioning that this Queen's latest video reminded them of one she did back at the 2012 Olympics, helping to promote the James Bond film Skyfall, which we've been talking about, all about Lucifer and Cernunnos and the underground, right at the same time of the 2012 Olympics, where they were celebrating May Day, Luciferian New Year's Day, which is what we're at right now, where they play Nimrod in the New Jerusalem and the triumphal entry concepts. Getting ready for the Phoenix, the Sol Invictus. That's what they're getting ready for. Their prince, their king, the beast. And we've seen all this push with Leo, of them copying the arrival of a king. They're using these exact same celestial signs above, but in their distorted view. They're getting ready for their king, their Apollo, their gods of Egypt, and using that exact same actor, Leonardo DiCaprio, who's also tied in with Titanic, the Battle of the Titans against the Olympians, also tying him in with the UN climate change, about the sudden upheaval, and the evolution of mankind and all that. Just within the past 15 days, we find so many references of the enemy practically doing handstands, trying to get your attention that time is up. Time is up. And just looking at the biblical signs and patterns, we know that. Are we living like that? We have no excuse not to be living for Christ's return right now. Even the enemy is giving legal notice that the events connected with Trafalgar are related to the church leaving, and he's giving so many warnings to wake up, wake up, wake up. Are we waking up? Are we living for eternity, or are we living in a dream world reality that does not exist? The son of perdition is about to be revealed. He's about to make his triumphal entry into the world. The enemy is getting ready for him. They've already started the celebratory events. They've already had the dress rehearsals. They know he's about to make his grand triumphal entry to start his one world order that they've been laying down as a mystery of iniquity for thousands of years. They know there is about to be a great upheaval and massive change. They know sudden destruction is about to pop onto the world like a gigantic boom. And they're warning all their disciples to be ready to wake up. There is about to be a harvest. The barley that is ready will be harvested. Romans 13, and that knowing the time, that now it is high time to wake out of sleep. For now is our salvation nearer than when we believed. The night is far spent, the day is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness, and let us put on the armor of light. So many times Jesus Christ called people's attention to, do you know what time it is? You can tell the weather, you can look at all these other things, but you do not even know the signs of the time. You don't even know what time it is. What about you, Christian? Do you know what time it is? The Romans were implored, when you know the time, that is the time to wake up. And now it's time to wake up out of sleep. Are you wanting to wake up? Are you making an effort to wake up? Or do you want to continue to dream? Even Satan is warning his disciples it's time to wake up. But Christian, we know the time. We've looked at the prophetic signs. We've looked at the celestial signs. We've seen so many signs telling us it's time to wake up. But so many people want to continue living in a dream. And what is that dream? The days of Noah. Eating and drinking as though life goes on, partying, living it up, enjoying all that this world has to offer. Building, planting, marrying, buying, selling, living as though life goes on. That's the dream world that they're living in. That's the fantasy world that they're living in. And all their actions, their time and energy, all of them, all of their life is given to a dream world right now, a world, a reality that does not even exist. A lucid dream is where you know you are dreaming. You are awake just enough to know you are dreaming, but you want to live in the dream anyway. That's the whole concept of that Honda commercial. And that's where many Christians are now. There's a lot of Christians who know prophecy things and even maybe watch these videos and know what the time is. But they don't want to wake up. They want to continue living as though life goes on. If you know what time it is, but you're still living as though life goes on, then you are not awake. You are asleep. You are not getting ready. You will be left here with the unbelievers. If Christ comes back and finds you sleeping and dreaming and living for a dream world that doesn't exist, he'll let you keep on sleeping. Remember Lot's wife. She could not wake up. She did not want to leave the way she had been living and live in light of that all that was going to be destroyed. She could not leave it. She could not wake up. She didn't want to wake up. What about you, Christian? Are you like Lot's wife, still living in a dream? The dream of the days of Noah and Lot, just like them? Or are you waking up? Are you rising up? Are you making sure you are shining bright? Are you living for things of eternity and casting off things now, changing your life? That's how you can tell you're awake, when you actually get up out of bed and you stop dreaming. That's how you know you're awake, when you are actively up and about and you have stopped dreaming. So that's my question for you. Do you know what time it is? If so, what are you doing? Are you continuing to stay in your dream world, or are you actually rising up? The night is far spent. It's time to wake up. The day is at hand. Our salvation is nearer than when we believed. Friend, now is when we ask the Lord for wisdom of what we should be doing at this late hour, of the steps that we need to take in our own life, things we need to cast off, things we need to trim off, and things we need to put on in our life, of how we can shine bright for Christ and be found awake and ready when he returns. Serve Christ first and highest above all else. Maranatha.